All right, this is the second year for Mr. Zook. Yes. Shannon is an incredible philosopher, and he's been studying with Ming in that lineage for 20 plus years.
No. I started 2012.
Oh, 2012.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's been
so that was actually the time.
Yeah, when we met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I asked.
So if I get it wrong, ask him.
Okay. So I asked Ming to create a Chinese astrology Polestar class, and we were in that together.
Yes.
That's right.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
so
You sat down like right where this person is at. Like
that's
right.
right.
In front
I
of
was
me
at
the
Ming's
entire
feet.
time. Yes, you were. Yeah.
And we love Ming. He's in the other plane right now. But what's so cool is his voice is still hanging out in the Ethernet.
Absolutely.
And you can also download that at .uncircle.org.
Highly recommend that. Please
Yep.
support .un Circle. Yeah.
And Scott is the next generation of people to be the transmission of that lineage.
Mm-hmm.
He's very true to that lineage, and he's really good at bringing it all together. And last year, when you talked about the snake, we were all kind of confused. You're just like, I don't know if I should talk about this. I don't know. You guys should go home. I'm like, and we're like, what, dude? Why are you here? Why are we here? And then I figured it
Good
out
question.
after about 6 months of the snake. I was like, okay, yes, I don't know what's going on.
Right.
And thank God, snake is over because we all. I don't know about you guys, but if you're paying attention, yeah, it was tough. Okay. And you know what? It's like it's still kind of coming through. He'll talk about that, but I can already fear. I can feel the fire.
Right.
From this new energy stuff.
Is the rabbit thumping
This
right
is
now?
right.
This is
That's
the
right.
rabbit thumping.
So
Horse.
that's right, exactly. So we can't wait to hear your talk this year,
Yeah, thank
and
you.
it's so helpful.
Yeah.
So thank you
Yes,
so much.
my pleasure. Yes.
And by the way, if anyone needs to use the restroom, there is this one. Does anyone need to go right now? Because we'll do like 2-3 minutes.
Everybody,
Everyone's cool? Okay.
everybody buckled in?
There's another one back here, by the way. Okay. So if you want to go back there, just right here, there's another restroom. Okay. And then there's water in the front and drinks. So yeah, and just let us know if you need anything. We're here to help you guys. Okay. All right.
So let's everybody give it up for John. John's an incredible host, and it's actually my great pleasure to be part of this community and to present, for the year of the Young Fire Horse. And I'm going to, thank people as I calm down. And so David is a dear brother of mine. We've been practicing every month. We do a new moon talk or a moon talk. So I highly recommend checking that out. Matt and I have known each other for, actually, yeah, I think I've known him longer than anybody else in the Bay. Like, we've known each other a really long time.
You have great taste in music.
Thank you. Yes, I do. Yeah, I do. So, yeah. So I want to, first of all, just talk about how we're going to proceed with this, just to give a kind of a structure to the conversation. It's all good. Yeah. I don't normally wear a watch, but today I am. And there's a reason why I'm wearing this watch, because it is because John put me on the clock. I've got an hour to talk about this information. And if any of you follow my writing, I can go on. So I've got a structure here that I'm trying to follow in a time that I'm trying to do it in. And that is actually a very good teaching, this kind of mala of discipline. It's excellent teaching for the Fire Horse year. So just demonstrating, some of the advice for the year is like, put yourself on the clock. Actually, don't leave your options open. Like make a commitment, choose something, pay attention to your experience, especially in the spring. Know what your appetites are, and don't look back. I have been studying this very intently since 2020. When that shift happened for me, it was just, I got a little spot and then I just studied. And I've been doing that, pretty hardcore for the last 6 years. As I told David when we first started, I'd be content to do this alone. I really genuinely care about the view quite a lot. I think it's on a personal note, and it's the last thing I'll say about this, but there's this notion that Krishnamurti put out, like a choiceless awareness. Like when you don't want to make choices in life. You want to find the thing that you have to do. In this kind of choiceless awareness, it just occurs. And it's happening before you even realize it. That has been this for me. And this view is very important to me in this really kind of non-important way. Don't get too attached. Like Ming would say, not too much. So really happy to be here and to represent this view. So let's get started. So there are 3 lenses that I want to talk about today. And the first lens is, let's be a geek out moment here. So the first lens is that we are entering into what I would consider to be a 30-year cycle, a new 30-year cycle. And the last 30-year cycle started in 1996. And since 1996, up until now, there has been a really interesting dynamic between the interior element of the earthly branch that represents the year and the exterior expression. What we're practicing here, this is a practice tradition centered around the Tongshu. The Tongshu itself is not a belief system, it's a practice tradition. And the Tongshu itself is a variety of different cyclical calendars all happening at once. And so to understand anything you want to know, you have to kind of reconcile all these different calendars, all these different cycles. So we are picking out one. And it happens to be a very important one because it's the biggest one. But the Tongshu itself is way more dynamic than just what year it is. Right? But what's interesting about the year, since 1996, the 30 years from 96 until now, the relationship between the interior element of the earthly branch of the year and the exterior expression has been in a controlling situation, or like some people would call it destroying relationship, like the interior being water, the exterior being fire, etc. It's been in that situation out of the 30 years, it's been in that kind of dynamic 19 out of the 30 years. So fully 2/3 of the last 30 years have been somewhat unintelligible. Nobody really knows what's happening. But we're figuring it out as we go. Starting in this year with a fire horse for the next 30 years, that dynamic happens only 5 times. So it's a pretty significant shift. And I've seen a lot of people talk about the fire horse as like this, it is a huge pivot. But they've been framing it in terms of like revelation or this great point of evolution in humanity, et cetera, et cetera. And that may be true. That may be true, but it's not the fire horse that brings that. It's us that brings that, right? Fire horses will come to discuss, doesn't really have a preference. Fire doesn't care what it burns. So what I find interesting about some of these people talking this way is that it's a projection on an increase in intelligibility. You feel more comfortable because the chi itself is direct. The interior is fire, the exterior is fire. Let's go, right? So that can be very comforting and very enlivening. You should feel enlivened. You might feel uncomfortable in that, but you're still enlivened, right? Can't guarantee success, but I can guarantee quite a lot of energy. And so some people project onto that a situation of evolution, a revelation, etc. But that's not the view. The view is just go. Yeah. The view is just forward motion. And that forward motion can either be walk, trot, canter, or gallop, right? And all the points in between. But we should understand that this kind of intelligibility, I think inspiration occurs when the world becomes more intelligible. You have a feeling of resonance and you're inspired. Yeah? You're in the season, you're in the moment in that way. So it's vitally important, but I think it's important to say not evolutionary. not at least according to this cosmology. And I think that's a vital distinction.
What was 5 times? Oh, do you take questions?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think it's important in this moment for us to convey the idea that we should trust the intelligibility. Should actually be more relaxed. You know, that 30-year period of time was not easy. You know, it's very hard to make sense of things, but that is shifting. Right? So the second frame, or the second lens that I want to discuss is fire itself. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going through the data. You know, it's just that this idea of like energizing, catalyzing is year of catalyst, or that catalyst itself, transformation, is huge this year, as big as since 60 years ago. Like there's not too many other years of fire where this compares, because fire is in its native placement. You might have a fire dragon or a fire tiger, but that's all a modification. Here we're just talking about yang fire, like in its actual entirety. So what is yang fire? So yang fire, first we'll use yin fire, because yang fire, yin fire. Yin fire was last year, right, with the snake. And it was a hidden fire because it was contained within wood. So the direction was inward, away from observable, right? So you can't really see yin fire anyway, but then you couldn't even see it anymore, right? It was like almost gone. That's why there was almost no content to the year. And you were feeling the influence of the dragon. And then what I called the backdraft of the horse. It was kind of pulling you once you got about halfway through. So yin fire is alchemy. It's this notion and understanding in this cosmology that one thing can always turn and transform into another with enough time. So the appearance of form itself is nebulous at best. This is very snake. Like, I trust it, but not really. Right? So this is a snake's view of the world, because they represent this yin fire, this knowledge that, well, I'm looking at it right now, but I don't know how long it'll last. So there's kind of an inherent skepticism to the snake that works. Yang fire, by contrast, is chemical. The image that we're using in talking about yang fire is cooking. How can I take a whole table full of things that seem unrelated and make a soup? So it's the process of making the soup. It is the transformation that we're tracking this year, is this yang fire business. And the most interesting thing about yang fire is that it's never complete. So if you're looking for a resolution, if you're looking for some kind of certainty or arrival, yeah, you'll have to wait. This is a work in progress, right? Yang fire is always a work in progress. So anytime it appears, it's movement itself, right? So it can't be stationary or fulfilled. It's always a catalyst for change. And in having a catalyst for change, it means there's strength, passion, ambition, vigor, lots and lots of vigor, vitality, this vitality business. So it's completely raw. And in and of itself, doesn't carry any sense of direction, right? A fire has very hard time staying within boundaries. It will, in fact, burn itself out if it's just allowed to keep burning. It's a very important thing to understand, is it is inherently boundless. It's always going to keep moving and expanding and burning. So the third frame is the horse. So the horse itself is the, embodiment of this yang fire principle. Is the earthly branch of horse is fire, is yang fire. So those two things are synonymous in this cosmology. And so as the embodiment of yang fire, fire horse is unique of the 5 horses, is that it represents this pure kinetic energy. And it's very important to state that. Again, it's just pure kinetic energy. So the kind of horse we're talking about isn't a mare, it's not a stallion, it's not a thoroughbred, it's the colt, right? It's the wild colt. This is also the beginning of a cycle of time where communal or herd element comes back into play. we haven't felt that for a while. Yeah. I think, yeah, ox was the closest thing. I mean, the rabbit that everybody was hiding, so like the communal aspect was very muted. But this is much more communal, much more herd oriented, which means there's a hierarchy, since there are dynamics that this fire has to navigate. So that's the containment of the young fire horse, this colt. So the interesting thing about that is that a colt, what I call is a high motor youth, right? Waiting for a rite of passage, waiting for a sense of direction. It's a coming of age, right? That's not yet secure in the hierarchy of the community. There's a lot of competition within herds of horses, like continuous, never really settled. They're always sort of jostling against one another. Right? It's not secure like wolves, where there might be seasons in that process. It's more like ongoing. So there's an appetite for independence, but also an awareness that teamwork is actually important. But the difficulty with that is that a colt simultaneously craves this sense of direction, but is compulsively resisting it, resisting guidance. Don't tell me what to do, that's...
Sounds like a teenager.
Exactly. So this is like late stage puberty. This is what we're talking about with the young fire horse. It's a late stage puberty. It has a lot of capacity to affect the situation, but is not yet mature enough to take on major responsibility. So maybe you can trust your, teenage child to go pick up some groceries, but not a lot of things because they're going to forget, right? Right? So this is the kind of energetic dynamic that we're looking at, is that there's this tension between being in community or being in relatedness and feeling the sense of direction that comes from that, in this desire, almost compulsive desire, for individual independent expression. Tension. There's a lot of tension in this year. So if it doesn't have a sense of direction assigned to it, it can be profoundly restless and can be very destructive. So let's get to the good stuff. So we're going from this hidden fire business to the hidden fire of the wood snake to no place left to hide. So everything is exposed. The image we used last year was of fires spreading through the root system underground, right? And then all of a sudden it would pop up over here, or pop up over there, etc. But now it's above ground and burning. So it's above ground and below ground at the same time. It's completely visible, very straightforward. No funny, it's not obscure at all. We've had a lot of obscurity, especially over the last 6 years, a lot of complication. This is not any of that. It's completely, what you see is what you get. It's very important. So at the level of personal conduct, yes. It's a year of yes. If you're feeling it, yes would be the advice. Ming used to say that if you're formulating the question, that means you already have a premonition. So you've got enough already. You don't need to ask me. If it's something that's up in your field and you want to do it, you should do it. This is the year to. I'm not saying that it's going to work out. Let's be very clear about that. A year of yes, it doesn't necessarily equate to success. It's just that the cost of inhibition outweighs the price of failure. So you cannot sit on your hands. You have to participate. There's no way around that. So if you expand that to talk about the entire year, not just your own personal conduct, then we're in this situation where it's a year of unavoidable catalyst. And the only way out is through. Snakes don't back up. And horses, with training, they can. But with training, right? If you have training, you can slowly back up, right? but usually it's all forward motion. So the only way out is through. So this is where we get philosophical. How does this wild vitality find success from the standpoint of this tradition? So Liao Dao teachings say that there are two aspects to our qi. There's that which is inspired to go forward and that which contains it. So if we use the image of cooking, terribly hungry, that's my motive, that's my inspiration. I make food, I eat it. You know, the whole process to this, and if I feel satiation, I have satisfaction. That's the end point, you know. So there is this inspiration to go forward, given by hunger, and a whole process of like what it is you might want as you process. You're making this soup, and you're like, no ginger, this, that, and the other thing. You're having a whole process involved in the cooking. And then you eat food, and then you're satisfied. It sounds very simple, but this is life, you know, from the Liao Dao tradition. That which is inspired to go forward, and then that which contains it. And so in the containment, you know, because this year is full of the inspiration to go forward and absolutely zero proclivity to contain it. That is not given by the year. That's on you. That's completely on you or your community, right? So there are many sources for this sort of yin kind of support. Religion, traditions, conventions, all kinds of things. And all of those things will be vital this year. Ming used to say, don't romanticize the idea of the free horse. Like, horses want to be trained, yeah? Even if they resist it compulsively, like in the case of this colt. They come into the herd element, and that's where they find security, success, etc. So, deliberate action is the best way I can say it, is deliberate action. And combined with sufficiency, like when is enough? When is it enough? In your experience, when is it enough? That sense of knowing when it's enough, that's where, you know, meaning and value, that's where that resides. Ming was constantly trying to get us to pay attention to our own experience. It's like, don't trust anyone else, like actually find out. And this is a year to find out, you know. So you should expect to be messy. You know, you should, this is not clean. Like this is, go back to puberty, make mistakes. This is a great time to make mistakes. Like spring, first couple of moons, excellent time to make mistakes. Mess it up, do it. Like, I think holding back, you know, this year, but actually shorten your life. So say it out loud. So the most powerful force for positive change is this disciplined consistency. Like, how do we build habits around the meaning and value we find in sufficiency? Like a martial arts training, like you train all the time. You train every day. And then to the point where the training is all you're doing, right? So that becomes like how you move in the world. And that's a really powerful expression of vigor under control, a sense of grace that can come with that. So immensely powerful time to develop all of those things. Any kind of skill set that you already have, that you want to cultivate, this is excellent time. Excellent time. Take it to the next level. Like, again, yes. Like, but don't blame me if it doesn't work. It's not me, you know, it's us, you know, and our capacities and our training and our community that, and don't think whatever you have in your mind, that may not be actually what you need. That is also possible. So, of course, with this much energy and vigor, so the transition I would go to now is to say, you know, there's a lot of business about perpetual growth. And this year, that's going to be like on steroids. You know, a lot of people out there talking about the fire horse as bigger, stronger, faster. Bigger, stronger, faster. Right? So from the wisdom of the Song dynasty, of which this tradition is rooted, that's a form of madness. That's actually legitimately a form of demonic possession. that you don't reside and live in the sequence of time. That you only fixated on this, like, oh, June's my favorite month. Like, that's madness, you know. Like, you're not living the entire sequence. Yeah. So there's so if we're talking about that as like a cultural element being amplified by the year, then the two biggest risks for breaking boundaries are war and natural disaster. So I gave you the good news first. Yes, go ahead and look out for the fires. So yes, I think most of you know 1906, which was 2 fire horse years ago, was the most disastrous earthquake in San Francisco, right? Where like over half of the entire city at that time was completely destroyed. You can still go to places in Berkeley where there are homes built by the people who came over from the city, that fled the city, and you can see the way they were built on the inside. It's actually quite remarkable. So yes, that was in April, which is or was at the time Water Dragon Month. So I think everybody in California should be holding their breath for that moon, actually, because last year they had these conversation indicators of like earthquake activity, etc. It didn't happen in 1996, so we'll see. Right? So the major transition that I want to talk about is like where do we go from here? Like the idea of this transition point between the wood snake and the fire horse means that all the patterns that we observed through that wood snake year are all going to be amplified and expanded quite vigorously. So basically what I'd say is that if you were surprised this year, then you weren't paying attention last year. Pretty much, because all the indicators were there. Like, and everything that we're going to be exploring, and all the difficulty and strife, or the good things, like all the seeds of all that stuff were happening, especially in the second half of the wood snake year. So a lot of that is going to be continuing. Right? So when it comes to, let's see, the 5 categories, something like politics. There's a really interesting story. I don't know if anybody's familiar with, I guess like 1800s, where they had one senator beat the hell out of another on the Senate floor during the, it was right before the Civil War. Yeah, Sumner, I think his name was. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Killed another senator on the floor of the Senate. Yeah, beat him to death with a cane. And of course, he wasn't prosecuted because it's neutral territory or something, and corruption, right? So, but that kind of level of vitriol in politics, I would expect that to continue pretty severely. There's no slowing down, folks. This is going to continue. So because there's an increased support for aggression, greater propensity for violence, both internally and between nations. So every existing war will intensify, and potentially new ones on board. So yes, competition is a big energy that's happening right now on a development of a multipolar world. So this is creating a lot of tension between even former allies paying attention in the news. Like nobody likes us, but they're all sort of liking each other. So there's a lot of tension and aggression that's happening between governments. At the same time, there's also a great energizing new team-ups, new forms of trading blocks, etc. But there are new teamwork that's happening. Because, the flip side to competition is teamwork. If you have the capacity for cooperation and disciplined action, deliberate, disciplined, sustained action combined with cooperation, sky's the limit. Like truly, that's a form of containment. So we're not trying to maximize the worst thing you could do to your opportunities is try to maximize them. Bad idea. This year they'll fall apart. They'll just blow up in your hand. But if you can contain it and actually give it real feet, real limits, measurable outcomes, right? Put yourself accountable, then I think things will go very well. So that's also the case on the level of politics. If you have these kinds of team ups, it could be very dynamic. And it's already happening. We're already seeing it on the international stage, especially. So I would expect that to really increase. Yeah. Also, demonstrations, internal fighting. Yes, the biggest, the biggest time to be very aware is going to be late summer. Late summer is going to be a mess because it's toxic heat. It's completely toxic. This is late summer. That's actually when every year Yang peaks, and then it's not sure if it's going to retire or if it's going to try to keep going and like take everybody out with it. That's really the issue with Yang, and that's something that the wisdom tradition and the Song Dynasty always knew, which is whenever you get to a state of extreme vitality, volatility is right around the corner. So that is what we're facing. We're facing an arc of that. Right now, things feel very inspired. And then we'll be getting busy. And then we'll kind of plateau. And then there will be decisions, about like whether or not we continue being aggressive, being inspired, or we're willing to start winding it down. That's the invitation of the season. That's living the sequence, knowing when to quit. That is a form of containment. You should think about that. How to quit, how to stop, not how to start something and then, hope you figure out a way to stop it or conclude it. Like actually map it out and walk it out. We're very privileged in the West. We can start so many things and without a whole lot of consequence. We can just have projects sitting there. But actually try to finish it. I know, very unpopular, sorry. My bad. I'll get back to something more encouraging. Do what you want, do what you want, do what you want. Economically, I would give you two notes. The first is on a material level, gangbusters. If you have, because the fire horse confidence is expressed through material advancement. So productive capacity, I actually think will be underscored. So things like real use technology, but also like supply chains, these sort of physical things. It's all about durable goods. It's all about assets. Like assets will skyrocket in price, or value rather, so real world tangible things and your capacity to do something with that, like cooking, fixing cars, whatever, like it's whatever you can tangibly do in the world will be enhanced, right? So on an economic level, what do we produce is the biggest question. So of course, if I'm looking at a heavily financialized system, I think that's the weakest. And I would expect like boom and bust conditions. Because when you get into these kind of speculative places and there's no restraint and no restraint offered by the year, then you have these kind of huge cycles back and forth that are very, very available. So when it comes to the productive stuff, there needs to be resiliency in the system, because when you start putting jet fuel into something, it may break apart, right? But if you can carefully use the year to sort of enhance what you're already doing, it could be enormously productive. Like banner year, very, very good. But when it comes to these kind of speculative endeavors, I think there's going to be a lot of, it's going to be a little dicey. The debt's coming due, if everybody knows, like $10 trillion of the U.S. government's debt's coming due, going to be rolled over, and not sure who's going to buy it, who is going to buy it, why, So I only bring this up because this is a source of competition. Like a lot of the things we're able to take for granted in terms of our relationships to each other, if we've been watching the snake year, have been breaking down. So like, if that is going to continue to accelerate, then it's something to pay attention to, because these sorts of things will actually affect us. I do expect there to be some kind of monetary crisis. I do. And I expect that because there's a crisis in large part because crisis makes for opportunity in an extractive economy. there does come a point where competition becomes predatory. And so I think that it's really important for us to understand that they could be, like a breakdown in the US dollar could be a reconstruction of internal monetary policy that could bring forward like new forms of currency, yeah, or requirements of digital ID. I don't think this is conspiracy theory, folks. I think there's actually mounting evidence, tokenized assets, et cetera, right? So if we're really thinking about how the economy runs and the amplification that's available this year, if we paid attention to some of the indicators and patterns that were available to us last year, then you're going to see an increased dialogue around these things. And it will tangibly affect your lives. Inflation is big right now. Like, your purchasing power has dropped this year significantly, and it's not just tariffs, right? So yeah, it's coming, this kind of devaluation of the dollar business. So yeah, sorry, bad news again. My bad. Okay, romance. Yes. Okay, so all the isolation of 2020, it's over. It is. Just like the idea of saying yes, the costs of isolation are now intolerable. Like, you're gonna wiggle in your butt, you're gonna wiggle in your seat. Like, you gotta get out, and you have to connect. So on a romance or partnership level, I expect there to be a lot of traffic in terms of dating. But in terms of actually like making a commitment, I don't know. I don't know. Like, the fire horse is fiercely independent. So I don't know if it's necessarily equates to like a ton of marriages, but a whole lot of circulation. Whole lot of circulation. And there's some, I have some stuff going on here just about how to make bonds, right? Shared activity. That's what it boils down to. Whether you're dating and trying to impress somebody or in a relationship, like, figure out what you want to do together, like bond over that. It's very powerful this year, because then you have something tangible. You guys take a painting class and then you put them up on the wall, and then your marriage lasts for another 10 years. Like, real, that's real. So that's very real this year. So invest in that way. Horses don't talk about how they feel, they show it. So that's the love language this year. Like, don't talk, just do things for each other. So spiritual, I don't know if anybody here is spiritual. Horse chi is very materialistic. So this is not a year for retreat, and that's okay. But what this is for, this idea of like studying esoteric principles or getting these kinds of downloads, it's like may or may not work, like in terms of, absorbing esoteric stuff. It's much better last couple of years, been really good for that. But what this is good for, actually, I would say most so-called meditative traditions or things that you participate this year are really about managing your stress. Sitting in silence will seem like a relief from all the frenetic energy of the year. So continue. If you have a practice, don't deviate. Stay with it. And some of the conceptual traditions, I think there's a lot of empowerments, right? And you can start, taking on empowerments. It's a very good idea. Very good idea. New ritual practices. Expand your ritual practices. Very good. But let the appetite come from within. Like, don't think about it in terms of like, oh, this is I don't know. If you have strong connections and commitments to your community, and like you're taking on responsibility, that's good too, especially if you're like an ox or something, so, but like, let it speak from within, the kinds of addendums or advancements on your practice that you want to bring in. Number one thing I would say is, if you're part of a cooler or some kind of community of any kind, including this place, offer to come clean. Offer to, volunteer your services. This is like a chi battery this year. And it is like a perfect expression of the available spiritual practices of the year. Practice, don't believe. Belief is worthless this year. Absolutely worthless. It's not worth anything. What you do, actually, that's where the chi is at. There's very little chi in belief. It's really about how you. This is again speaking from this tradition, which is a practice tradition. When you act, like who is your parish? Who do you help, right? And that may be based in the belief. Totally fine. Doesn't matter. Like it's just, but what you do is really how you build that battery of chi. And that can be in prayer as well. So don't want to anger any theists. So I like my theists. They're great. Health. So I think the most important thing to say about this is that it's an intensely physical year. So if you have some appetite to like move, you should for sure. It's yes, take a class, get in there. Metabolism should speed up, like better digestive fire, that kind of thing. There's also pathogenically, increased, risk of chronic inflammation. I would cut back on the tea, honestly, this year. And
Anti-inflammatory, baby. No, anti-inflammatory. Everywhere on the internet, look it up.
It's entirely your practice, for sure. Just be careful of anything that builds heat in the body and takes away fluids. Fire, John can speak better on this than I can. In my training, I would say that fire moves fluids and makes things happen in the body. But if you have too much fire and not enough fluid, it causes problems. So it's intensely physical. But if we all think we need to become athletes, no. That's not at all the teaching. The teaching is how do you preserve your yin. That's very important this year. And you preserve your yin, sleep, rest, laughter, community, like opening your heart. All these things are like wonderful sources of yin, yeah, and like ways of nourishing your yin. It's a buffer against all the heat of transformation that's happening this year. Really important to bond, together, and be happy. So there's a fine line between enthusiasm and dehydration. So you should double check. I feel really good. Am I dehydrated? Maybe I should drink some water first before I make a decision. I think ecological is pretty straightforward. The last couple of years have been pretty rough. If you look at the measurements of how fastly the climate has been warming, I think we'll set new records this year. This has been the lightest snowfall in the West in decades, Colorado and Utah. So there's most likely going to be a lot of fires in that regard. Droughts, Lake Powell's almost at point of dead pool. That's a big issue. We've gotten some rain here in California, which is wonderful. But I don't know if you noticed this, everything gets green and then no more rain comes and then everything dies and then we have this propensity for fire. Yeah, so it's really, it's important to be aware, This could be a hard year in that respect, especially because, the Colorado River, we used to have agreements about how we used it and now we don't. And now everybody's fighting. So that only makes things hotter. In this tradition, this is kind of a form of demonic terraforming. Sorry, making things desertification. Making things more hospitable for demonic forms of life rather than humans. Right. So something to be aware of. So I am not succeeding in my plan, but I'm going to run through these earthly branches. Ready? Ready. So I'm going to do the earthly branches different this time, not just like rat, ox, etc., but we're doing it by trines, because all the trines have something in common. And so if you, and then you notice oh, you're in my trine, and then you can make friends, right? So, so the first trine that I want to talk about is the fixed trine. It's the ox, the snake, and the rooster. Anybody here? Ox, snake, rooster? Word. Who was that? Oh, yeah. So just to talk about horses break boundaries. And these three of the fixed trine, they live in boundaries. They love boundaries. So this can make them really good at containing the horse, but they may spend their whole year preserving boundaries rather than being productive, right? So they may be challenged in that way. And that's especially true of the ox. I expect the ox to have some challenging circumstances over the next 3 years. So, yeah. You can rise to the occasion, but there's a lot of moving parts. So be a good scout. Be prepared. That's the primary advice on that. Also, consult with an accountant before you do any kind of major purchases. It is important. So there's a lot of hard work that's available, but and that's good. You'll feel like you have a little extra gas in the tank. But don't be the only one that's generous for the ox. You're very generous, and this year that might wear you out. So be aware. Roosters. So the roosters, the problem with that is that passion can easily be out of step with principles. So a lot of things are going to race forward, and he's like, wait, like they have a lot to say first, but nobody's listening. Right? So, so roosters are going to be doing a lot of wait, slow down. What are we doing? Yeah, so it's going to be difficult to exert control. So anxiety is likely to increase. Be aware of your prejudice and deconstruct the process. You love deconstruction, yeah? Like tear it apart. So similar to the rat, I encourage reducing your sphere of concern. And like the snake, you might need to leave some opportunities on the table. So when it comes to the snake, that's kind of what I'm advocating. The snake is very good at navigating the horse. They are not surprised. They expect universal injustice. That's my favorite line. One of my favorite lines of men. Snakes expect universal injustice. So they're not surprised at all very often. And so the intensity of the horse, they're likely to be relatively unaffected, not unbothered, but they can navigate it. But like the dragon, the kind of compromises they need to make to be successful this year, they might be offended by it. So snakes might be good to leave some opportunities on the table. Get your priorities straight. You don't need to keep up. Snakes have nothing to prove. So the ingenious trine, which is the rat, the monkey, and the dragon. Okay. Rats, I'm really, really sorry. I'm not going to pretend that's not going to be tough. Like it will. Because the social sensitivity of the rat is basically a blessing and a curse. Like you're very aware of what's going on, and it's way too much. So there's going to be some PTSD involved. So as stability unravels, your nerves fray and suspicion mounts, right? So you can't control the frenetic state of the world, but you can control your own local atmosphere and your assets. Be like really frugal, even if you don't need to be. Like expect an emergency. Plan for more than you need. You'll have to accept your discomfort this year. I think it's really important to say, don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. And for rats, they have a tremendous amount of social capital in their community. So they need and they should make a withdrawal this year and accept help. And be selective about who you surround yourself with, but also create a little safe place to hide and invite people over for tea. I mean, deliberate action can actually really, really help the rat this year. So I would say practice deliberate action. Monkeys. So conservation in monkeys, containment. Okay, so I think their biggest weakness is multitasking. And so they'll need to wear lots of hats this year, or they'll want to. But they need to be very hypervigilant about the management of resources because things can kind of get out of control pretty quickly. They have such great reaction time, they think it can handle it all, but the horse is going to come on you faster than you think. Like And you've been able to pull the monkey or the snake's tail and the dragon's tail and get away with it, but the horse is going to kick you in the face. So it's really important to take your time and teamwork. Say no before you take risks. Say no a few times. Just say no if you can. Teamwork can mitigate the situation quite a lot, but they should be really transparent about how they move because we're headed toward the goat year, and reputation is really going to be the Achilles heel of a monkey in a goat year. So they really want to have a lot of integrity in terms of how they relate to other people. Dragons. Yes, dragons. This is very interesting. Dragons, they're natural born leaders. One of the things I forgot to say, because I was under pressure, is that there are roughly two camps that I would put the earthly branches in. Leaders and support. Who's in the head of the pack? Who's leading the pack? There's a lot of competition, in a horse here, in a fire horse here. So there's only a few of the earthly branches that can actually keep up with the pace that the energy of the fire horse is providing. Everybody else should team up, like absolutely, and support one another. So I do have, everybody has a form of leadership, but this kind of a hierarchy business, and that's not a nice word here, but hierarchy is very important in managing the chi of a fire horse here. Chain of command, who does what? Delegating power, sharing power requires hierarchy, discipline, to be effective. Think army, right? Get things done, you have to have this kind of structure available, even loose, changeable, but this year is actually important to have some kind of structure of containment for the energy to share and be successful. So dragons are natural born leaders. They don't have to try. They just start leading. But the problem with the dragon this year is that they may voluntarily opt out. And they may voluntarily opt out because they do not like competition. And it's not that dragons can't compete. Dragons don't compete. They have no interest in proving themselves at all. So they play by their own rules, and whether or not you can follow along is kind of up to you as far as the dragon is concerned. They will lead herds this year, just not all the herds, because now we're having more influence from communal, show me your worth, being the leader, and that's going to really intensify next year. And dragons have no interest in that process. They don't. They're mildly offended by it. So they may opt out, but if they do opt in, it's go big or go home. They can do really strong, really strong things this year. Advancing, and that is the tiger, the horse, and the dog. Who's tigers? Cool. Horses. Dogs? Ooh, no dogs. Oh, hi, dog. Okay, great. So, for the three of you, it's mostly an all-you-can-eat buffet, actually. It's of opportunity, but a word of caution. Embrace monotasking. If you fail to prioritize, you can potentially squander the chi of the year. And then you'll be entangled in a host of unfinished projects. That doesn't bother the dog so much, but it does have bad consequences for the horse and the tiger. In the case of the tiger, all the attention's on your horses, but the tiger, this is actually their year. Their year is this horse year. It's really good for tigers. But understand that when you hunt, you fail most of the time. And that's okay. You should really trust your own experience, and you should be patient. Especially in the spring, I think it's really important for tigers to understand that they should go for what they really want. And pardon my French, stop digging around. Identify what it is you actually care about. This is a good year. If you have that already in your mind, Be patient, be strategic, go for it, like, but set it up and pounce, you know. Don't squander your chi, like chasing small things. You know, go for the thing that you really care about. And if you don't know what that is, no pressure. You know, show up late. Like, be fashionably late this year. You don't need to rush at all. Like, the entire year is available to you. The only time it's going to get really, really chaotic for you is in that late summer business. That's when you really want to chill out, find a place in the shade, let it blow over. Don't try to fix it. The horses. Yes, very, very good year. But the main caution that I would say is that it's very easy for horses to get what I don't know if you ever heard this expression, over your skis, you know, like where you're leaning way too forward and you have a greater capacity to crash. I think that you need to retreat to monotasking from time to time because if you're overloaded and you're needing to backtrack constantly and you get into this place where you're expending too much energy, you'll burn out real fast. You know, so horses should avoid overreach. But, and the ones that are most vulnerable to that, earth horses and metal horses. So I think 90 and 78, right? Those two are the most vulnerable, most enthusiastic and most vulnerable to overreach. But other than that, I think there's really good opportunities for them to move forward. And I would say work with others, loop them in. Dogs, it's been a rough stretch for dogs. Like, they have not had the best time of it because they've been put in a position for several years where they've had to second guess their relationships. And that's not a good place for them to be. Don't try to take the lead this year, but you'll be in demand. Yeah, there'll be people that want your kind of level-headed approach to things this year. So you can use your number one counselor. You know, helping is your love language. So don't feel like you have to take on the biggest challenges. You can sort of let the opportunities come to you. This wu wei reflection, which is resist a little bit, and then it just pulls you, rather than chase. No chasing for dogs. No chasing. You don't need to chase. Like, it's all there for you. So it's just pull back a little bit and let it bring you. Right? That would be the advice. Because it is a very energized year. Yeah, so the opportunities will come for dogs. Who are my domestics? The rabbits, goats, and pigs. Pig, rabbits. Okay, we're almost there. This is the domestics. This is the last part. This is it. Yeah. Domestics are, they're naturally dedicated. So there's the materialism here is great motivator for pushing forward on projects. But speed and intensity is the issue for the domestics. This is all very mixed for them this year. It really depends on the capacities of their alliances. How safe they feel is a very big deal. It's also somewhat true for dogs, but dogs can kind of hang back in confidence a little bit more. Whereas it's not that this is a bad year for any of the goats or rabbits or pigs. It's just a little trickier, because they do need to team up this year to be effective and then also to feel safe. So in the case of rabbits, galloping hooves, it causes a sense of anxiety. So nuance is a lost art this year. Everything's just kind of coming forward very strongly. So for rabbits, this is anxiety producing. But it's just a matter of settling in, especially this spring. Things will start to gain a rhythm for rabbits, I'd say by like the third or the fourth moon. And you will be in demand along with the dog as like a trusted advisor this year. But try to, you could be very much on overload. So if you're already feeling that way, it really is about self-care, finding ways to calm down. And the period of isolation is ending, so shelter and intimacy. Find people you can hold hands with. Like, that could actually really calm your nervous system. And that's really, so being in good company is really the biggest need for rabbits this year. because it does feel like too much is happening, and that's not going to change, right? So go where you feel calm. You should trust that. And goats have been sort of absent for several years. I mean, they've been sort of under the radar, I think, since like 2020, 2021, even before that. So now, and if they've been building networks all that time, this is where they're going to start rising. Next year is their year. So this is the year you're still in the horse's shadow, but there is energy for you to build networks and create systems of belonging, to continue in that work in progress that you're naturally gravitated to. And people, you're building, you are actively building. And if you're not, this is a really good time to start building, because next year it's going to be coming forward. So be patient, develop your stamina. Yeah, so that way you're not like overwhelmed in your year right away. And as far as the pigs are concerned, congratulations on surviving another snake year. The clap is for me. Survived the snake year. So you're on house money right now. Like you really shouldn't worry about too much. Don't try too hard. Take your time. I think what's good about being a pig in a horse year is a lot of people who are really stressed out, and you're really good at making them feel better. And so you should help make them feel better. Like you should give them a sense of perspective, remind them why they're working so hard. It's for your family, right? Just relax and provide some sort of service to kind of help alleviate their tension. Yeah. So pigs are very just good at this naturally. If you have pig friends, talk to them. They can really help you unwind your stress. So this seems like it's not very productive, but it really is. This is also this yin business we're talking about, the way to preserve your yin. We're all so aggressive, unnecessarily aggressive. And I think pigs and some of your domestics are excellent ways to remind you that you don't need to be so aggressive. That life can be pretty good, and have lunch, just have lunch and have a good day, Hannah Arendt had this notion of labor, the labor of life. And that's the majority of the things we do. And then we have work and art, right? But labor is the thing we do every day. We got to get up and I have to feed myself. I got to work and create food so I can eat, so there's this constant labor. And from a Western perspective, that was seen as not as important as work or art, right? That kind of hierarchy business does not exist in this cosmology. The art is in the labor of living. So pigs are very aware of this, this kind of everyday business of what it takes to keep the train moving. So that's not what I wrote, but that sounds pretty good. I think it's important for pigs to recognize what they have to bring to the world, but they don't really need to prove anything. I think they can just be pigs are very hardworking, so they'll be up to something or other. They're also very have some strong passions. So moving on with our passion projects, if you have passion projects, move forward with them, but speak from the heart. Horse chi is from the heart, and pigs are good at that. But how they thrive at that is by helping other people see their heart, not intentionally, just sort of naturally, right? So if you're a pig or no pig friends, spend time with them if you're feeling stressed out, because they'll relax you even if they're stressed out. They're generous like that. Oh, so close. So close. Yeah, any type of questions? So close. That's 3 or 4 minutes. I did pretty good.
Yay!
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, containment. Don't maximize. No, that's bad business. So, yes.
I have a lot of questions for you. At the beginning, when you described, I guess, the year that you're in the horse, and you mentioned don't look back.
Yeah.
In my faith,
Mm-hmm.
we have the Sankofa bird, where it's a weird looking bird because the bird is looking back and facing forward
Sure.
at the same time.
Sure.
I'm trying to understand that concept of if I'm using the Sankofa concept and then you say don't look back, can you expand on that? So
Yeah. There's don't look back is very much in alignment with just keep moving forward, which is the direction of the year is forward movement, regardless. So if I'm trying to ride a horse and I'm doing this, right? I'm inhibiting, my actual forward movement. There are other images to relate to this that actually are in this tradition. Like the Confucian part of this tradition is constantly looking back, but it's looking back in kind of more of a cyclical way, right? So if I'm making a big circle to include the past, right? I'm including the past in the everyday rituals regarding home, family, and that kind of lineage business, our inheritance. So our inheritance is incredibly important, so a resource, and this is also yin, right? This is a yin resource that we can draw on to give the forward motion of the horse some context, of like how it should operate. This is all part of. So if we're looking back, or we're using faith, this is a form of containment, for the year. I highly encourage it.
yeah, because the bird has an egg in its mouth. So
Sure.
the egg is like a
Yeah, and egg business is spring.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So we don't because we're following the entire sequence. We don't want perpetual spring.
sure.
We want to know when it's time to actually only move forward and then stop. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you so much too. But I want to invite, if you have any questions, to contact this guy. Maybe get a reading.
Who's
Talk
that?
deeper about what's going on. Okay. How can we get a hold of you?
It's in the book. It's in the book. I'm in the book. There's an email business here in the front. There's also actually this QR code will take you to a website where you can actually sign up for the daily writing that I do.
I want to say I discovered your Instagram
Yeah.
only a couple months ago, and I was like, why didn't I find it sooner? So it's really fun.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks everybody for your patience. I know some good news. Huh? Yes, we're doing it again, actually. Yeah. So I'll be better next time, I swear.
I was going to say that. So next week, is it Saturday?
Sunday. Next Sunday, the 1st of March.
It's in 2 weeks.
1st of March.
So this is David Way, y'all.
1 week from tomorrow. 1 week
This
from
is David
tomorrow.
Way. All right, Wudong House. All right.
Hi everyone, if you guys enjoyed today's talk, Shannon's a G. That's my language. Gentleman, that's what it means. So Shannon's a gentleman, really, really skillful at this stuff. We work on it every month with our own Tea Talk show. If you want to hear more of this without the 1 hour time constraint, we're going to do another one at my house next Sunday.
Yeah, so if you think I could talk
One more.
now, I can talk now. Yeah, thank you.
And by the way, David has a 501c3 for disseminating Wudong Taoist culture,
Yeah.
heritage. Incredible. So please support him as well. Amazing guy, amazing group, community, part of our community.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How do we get his information for connecting to March 1st?
Yeah. So how do we find out about that?
That's a-
Quietly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and Jay, come on over. Jay's You're the Pig, good friend.
Oh, great.
So, big surprise is he's also hooking us up with a lion dance today. So, you're supposed to give these guys to the lions.
Okay.
So we're handing these out. If you have $1, just anything to put inside these, okay? And then you can give them to the lions. Okay,
Sweet.
they're coming around 5:30.
Cool.
So I'm gonna pass these out.
Yeah.
And just yes, please. Yes. Thank you. Pass those. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot of information in here I didn't get to. So
Okay, so
feel free to
then-
read it.
All right. Now we have.
Oh, the
our
raffle.
Raffle.
Whoop,
Okay.
whoop.
I'm gonna ask Gloria or